After killing his grandparents at 15, Ed Kemper murdered 8 people between May 1972 and April 1973, often mutilating their corpses. Early symptoms were present. Ed Kemper slaughtered animals, decapitated his sister's dolls, and created unpleasant games as a child. He killed his grandparents aged 15. The police first didn't accept Kemper's confession to killing 6 female hitchhikers in California in 1972 and 1973, as well as his mother and her best friend. Big Ed, the 16 local who was constantly there, was a gentle giant they liked. He wasn't. Ed Kemper, a crafty serial murderer, assaulted corpses, mutilated them, and buried their heads in his lawn. He was more deadly since he exploited his 145 IQ to escape crime scenes undetected. Mindhunter shows Ed Kemper's terrible murders. His genuine story is much scarier than any TV drama could portray. Edmund Kemper, born in Burbank, California on December 18, 1948, had behavioral issues from childhood. The prospective serial killer had a troubled childhood. Clarnell Elizabeth Kemper, his mother, was an alcoholic and maybe borderline. Edmund Emil Kemper II, Kemper's father, remarked, "Living with Clarnell was worse than wartime suicide missions and atomic bomb tests." She often criticized Kemper's father's menial electrician work. She feared coddling her youngster would turn him gay. Kemper developed dark imaginations early in that unstable atmosphere. He decapitated his sister's dolls. Kemper later stated, "I remember there was actually a sexual thrill. You hear that little pop and pull their heads off and hold them up by the hair. Whipping their heads off and sitting there. I quit." Kemper also made his sisters do gas chamber and electric chair games. Kemper pretended to be marched to his death by his sisters. He stalked his second-grade teacher with his father's bayonet. Kemper coldly said, "If I kiss her, I'd have to kill her first." Kemper began acting violently at 10. The youngster killed both cats after his father departed in 1957. He buried one cat alive and decapitated it. Without Edmund's, Kemper's mother turned on her adolescent son. She made him sleep in the basement because he might hurt his sisters. She constantly berated him and told him no woman would ever love him. Kemper had enough at 14. He moved in with his father. His father had remarried and moved him to live with his grandparents. Ed Kemper first killed there. Ed Kemper found his grandparents' property no better than home. His grandmother Maud was emasculating and his grandfather Edmund senile. She thought she had more balls than any man and was constantly emasculating me and my grandfather to prove it. Kemper later recalled. Kemper got angrier after often fighting with his grandmother. "I failed her, like prison." He stated, "I was a time bomb that exploded." Kemper fought his grandmother again on August 27, 1964. However, the outraged 15-year-old shot Maud Kemper in the head with his grandfather's .22 caliber gun. Kemper also shot his grandfather as he approached the house. His grandparents died because of him. "I just wanted to see what it felt like to kill Grandma," he said of killing Maud. Kemper killed his granddad to hide his wife's murder from him. He confessed to his mother after they died. Kemper went to a Atascadero State Hospital's criminally insane unit. Doctors diagnosed Kemper with paranoid schizophrenia and a high IQ. Despite his atrocities, Ed Kemper was only hospitalized for a few years. Released on his 21st birthday in 1969. Kemper moved home with his mother, a UC Santa Cruz administrative assistant. After being released, Ed Kemper killed again. He attempted to live normally at first. Kemper joined the Department of Transportation after being rejected as a state trooper due to his 6'9" and 300-pound frame. Kemper saw many hitchhikers in California. He gave them transportation. Kemper said she initially picked up girls to talk to them and make friends. He successfully dated over 100 girls. He couldn't stop killing. Kemper added, "One side of me says, wow, what an attractive chick. I want to talk and date her. Another part of me wonders, how would her head look on a stick?" Kemper resumed violence in 1972. He picked up 18-year-old Fresno State students Mary Ann Pess and Anita Lucas near Berkeley on May 7. Kemper planned to rape the women in a neighboring forest. He panicked and stabbed and choked the two women to death. He put them in his trunk and drove to his Alameda home. He was stopped for a broken tail light but not searched. He would have found dead Kemper's victims inside. Kemper raped the bodies at home. He dismantled and disposed of them. Loma Prieta Mountains ravine held dead Kemper's victims. Kemper continued killing on September 14, 1972. Kemper picked up a hitchhiker, 15-year-old Daikoku, who missed her dance class bus. Kemper unintentionally locked himself out of his car, but the teenage girl let him in. He strangled, raped, and killed her. Kemper remembered admiring his latest kill after putting Koa's body in his trunk. He admired his catch like a fisherman. Kemper started risking capture for thrills. Police officers frequented the jury room bar. He befriended local police, who called him Big Ed. Kemper liked being chased. After moving back with his mother in 1973, Kemper killed 3 more college students he picked up on campus. He buried a victim's head in his mother's garden facing her bedroom. His mother always wanted people to look up to her, so he did this. Ed Kemper's mother had been his true goal. My victims represented not what my mother was, but what she liked, coveted, and was important to her. And I was destroying it, he said. Kemper relived his boyhood living with Clownell. My mother and I started right in on horrendous battles. Just horrible battles, violent and vicious, he later said. April 20, 1973, was the climax. Kemper killed his sleeping mother with a claw hammer that night. He decapitated and raped her head before using it as a dartboard. He shouted for an hour. Kemper also threw her tongue and larynx in the garbage. The machine failed to break up the tissue and spit her remains back into the sink. Kemper said, "That seemed appropriate as much as she bitched and screamed and yelled at me over so many years." Even more upsetting, he invited his mother's best friend, Sally Hallett, to the house. Kemper killed Hallett and stole her automobile under the guise of his mother and her friend going on vacation. He drove to Colorado, expecting to hear of the 2 killings. After waiting, Kemper called the police from a phone booth. He admitted all. Police first doubted Big Ed was a killer. Kemper soon described things only the co-ed killer knew. Kemper stated, "It wasn't serving any physical or real or emotional purpose. It wasted time. I couldn't take it any more emotionally. Toward the end there, I started feeling the folly of the whole damn thing," he added. At the point of near exhaustion, near collapse, I just said to hell with it and called it all off. Kemper was convicted of 8 first-degree murders. Kemper attempted suicide twice and wanted the death penalty, but he received 7 concurrent life sentences. Charles Manson and Herbert Mullin shared the California medical facility with Ed Kemper. Kemper, 72, remains in that prison. Kemper willingly gave press and law enforcement officers interviews in his early years in prison. He spoke with the FBI to discuss his horrible crimes and why he committed them in a chillingly objective manner. In Mindhunter's first season, Ed Kemper's testimony regarding his state of mind during his killings helped law enforcement comprehend serial killers. The co-ed killer is now considered a model prisoner. Ed Kemper now schedules psychiatrist appointments for other offenders and has narrated Dune and Star Wars audiobooks for over 5,000 hours. Some Kemper acquaintances doubt he has changed. Kemper's half-brother, who uses a pseudonym, said, "It's laughable. Kemper is a sociopath. He could look you straight in the eye telling you how sorry he is for everything he did while plotting your demise, and you'd never even have a clue."